Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today we're going to be covering a few things. I have a little bit of a pickup order that I want to showcase to you, so a haul, and then also I want to showcase what I've been watching for the month of April 2022, but I'm also in the midst right now of watching an ABC movie challenge. So if you don't know what that is, I actually have a video in the description down below, kind of explaining where I did a challenge last year where I watched 26 films from A to Z on the titles, and they were all new and they were unwatched films on my shelf. And so it was a really fun way to tackle my collection. So this year I want to do that again, and this go around I actually started off with a number and then I'm going A through Z. So I watched Three Women, Robert Altman's Three Women, and then I have Action Jackson as my A. I have The Big Chill as B, and Capote as my C, and then the rest of it I'm going to be very hush-hush about until I do a video later on, just giving my thoughts on all these films that I watched. But today, like I said, I want to showcase what I've been watching before that, and then also a little bit of a haul. So let's jump right first into this haul, and then we'll jump into what I've been watching. So I did a little order from OrbitDVD.com, which is easily becoming one of my favorite places to pick up Region B related things and things that are not necessarily easy to get over here, and really fast shipping and then really good prices as well. But I got two things from them. The first is from Eureka Entertainment right here, Masters of Cinema, and this is The White Reindeer. Now this is number 203 in their spine number, and it is a film from 1952. It's a Finnish film, and the reason I picked this one up is I actually watched all the Haunts Be Ours box set right there, and this is a film, a Finnish I guess vampiric horror film. And anyway, it was talked about in that documentary, and it was certainly one that caught my eye. It really did catch my eye, and it looks like a really fantastic film, and it actually is considered a cult classic in its homeland of Finland. So I'm very, very excited about this. It has quite a bit of extra features in here. It's actually a double disc right here with, I think, the Blu-ray and the DVD, of course, and this is a Region B disc. So it will only work in a Region B player or a multi-region a Blu-ray player that is region free. So, but it has a 4K restoration from a 2016 National Audiovisual Institute of Finland, and it has some extra features in here with audio commentary by Kat Ellinger, who I always love seeing, and a couple of other new exclusive audio essays with journalists Amy Simmons about religion, pleasure, and punishment, portrayal of witches in Nordic cinema, with a reindeer, Eric Bloomberg's 1947 documentary short, some test footage, 1952 Jussie Award ceremony featurette, a reversible sleeve, and a collector's book that comes with it. So the reversible sleeve right here is a really awesome little feature there as well. I love the dynamics of the black and white and then that color. And then of course it comes with the booklet as well. And the booklet right here looks fantastic, of course. And I cannot wait to jump into that. Like I said, still into folk horror, and you'll talk more about some folk horror later today, but I picked up The White Reindeer, and the other thing that I picked up is a recent release from the BFI, and it's a 4K of The Proposition right here. Now, The Proposition came out in 2005. It's an Australian film. It's written actually by Nick Cave, and that's actually the reason I wanted to pick this one up. Besides the fact that I had friends telling me, they're like, hey, I'm going to pick this one up from the BFI, and talked about it. But then I saw Warren Ellis and Nick Cave were involved. Both Warren Ellis and Nick Cave were involved with the music. Nick Cave wrote the film, and it was directed by, let's see, who was it directed by? It was John Hillcoat who did this, who also did The Road and 999. So, and I enjoy those films. So this is a new restored in 4K. With a 4K presentation in Dolby Vision. It has some new conversations, John Hillcoat and Nick Cave in conversation from 2021, where it looks like it'll probably be on a audio commentary track. It also has one from 2006 involving the two, another commentary track with critics Alexandra Heller-Nicholas and Josh Nelson. Then it has a making of, a 27-minute behind-the-scenes documentary. It has Inside the Proposition, a 43 minutes series of featurettes looking at the pre-production, Shooting the Proposition from 2005, featurettes, the production, and the challenges facing during the film, B-roll footage, behind-the-scenes featurettes, interview with Guy Pearce from 2006, who is one of our main characters in this film itself, Then it also has an interview with Danny Houston, another actor recalling his work on the film. Still galleries, original theatrical and teaser trailers, the 2022 trailer of this, a double-sided poster, which I'll show you in just a second because this came in a nice little box right here, and new artwork and 80-page book with all those things. So let's look at it real quick. There is the 4K right there. It comes with the 4K and the Blu-ray with all the features. I'm sure the features are all on the Blu-ray right there because the 4K takes up a lot of discs. Also, there is the booklet, the 80-page booklet. This looks great. I love this material right here. And so, of course, you just get to see all the wonderful essays and photography that's involved with this piece right here. And I'm very excited to read that when I get the chance to. And then it also comes with the poster, right? The poster of the original artwork from the film, I think, back in 2005. And then, of course, this new art. So let's look at it real quick. Right there. And right there is that one. I like this one more personally, but I really am excited about this. I love my westerns, and I've been kind of in a western mood here and there. Of course, if you know on the channel, I've been watching some westerns recently. So very excited for the proposition and more BFI 4Ks. And I just want to shout out Orbit DVD for having the availability to get these things to the States. And I want to shout out to all of the labels and the third parties that are actually able to have these different boutique labels at their disposal to send over to the States and vice versa, where they can get stuff over to everyone else. But anyway, that's my pickups. I just wanted to show you the White Reindeer and the proposition. That being said, let's now jump into what I've been watching for the month of April. But before we do that, I want to know, what have you been watching for the month of April? Have you been following along on this challenge? Have you been watching anything new in theaters? Anything you've been rewatching? I would love to know in the comment section down below. All right, first is a film from 2021, I believe. I think it was made in 2020, but it was released to the mass. That's what it is. To the mass, that's a bad joke. To everyone in 2021, but I finally was able to pick this one up, and man, oh man, this movie is heavy. It is a really tough movie to talk about because I don't really want to spoil what this movie eventually turns into, but you kind of figure out through the conversations between these four people right here. So the basic premise is these two couples are coming together to have some kind of counseling moment about something that happened in their lives. And they're going to this little church, and the setup is just as intense and as mysterious as anything. And it's slowly through the dialogue and the conversations that they're having, you start piecing together why they're there and why they're talking to each other, and it is phenomenal. But this is starring Reed Birney, Ann Dowd, Jason Isaacs, and Martha Plimpton. And I love Ann Dowd and Jason Isaacs, and I know them pretty well from the films that I've seen. But I really enjoyed everyone in this film. This is a movie that's just like I said, it's very intense. The subject material that they talk about, their conversations. It's a very heavy movie. It'll make you emotional. Hopefully, I cried when I watched it, and I hope you feel some kind of emotion too when they're talking about the things that they're going through. But this is an incredible film. This is directed by Fran Kranz, who wrote and directed this film. And I cannot think of, off the top of my head, what else this director's done, but I'm sure I'll put it right here. This is certainly a film that will not leave your mind, and it is really one that just weighs on your heart. So check out Mass if you haven't seen it. All right, next is a documentary. It's a long documentary. It is 160 minutes. It's not as long as the original documentary, but it is the next chapter in Mark Cousins' story of film. So this is the story of film, A New Generation, written and directed by Mark Cousins. And I recently, it's over across the bay, but this is put out this is Dog Woof right here. But this is a continuation of Mark Cousins' story of film, which it was a book originally, and then eventually he turned it into a documentary series, which was a long series. I think it was 14 parts or something along those lines. It is a lot of parts. And this is a continuation of that, but looking at the films from 2010 to about 2021, and then thinking also about lockdown and how he pieced it together. But this is a really great film and a really great continuation of that story. It definitely, like it or not, some people I know are up and down on Mark Cousins and his delivery and how he presents work. But this one is more thematic than it is linear in chronological order. So in the original story of film, he went a little bit more chronological, exploring the different decades. and less on the themes of those different decades when it comes to how he set this up. But this actually is a little bit more like Women Make Film, which is another thing that he did, which I like more. It's more about the thematic, undertones of a lot of the different structures of film and how it was made in the medium itself. And this one is also the same way. He uses some footage from himself, what he was able to capture as he's discussing these different images and different films, right? But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a nice little follow-up to it. And it was a nice little, a nice little bit of freshness coming from Mark Cousins. And I mean, I'm a fan of his work and the things that he discusses. And it's just nice to kind of get a consolidation of all these things that are going on and all these different areas of film, the medium that we love, right? And yeah, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. This is a Region B once again, so I picked this up from a place where you have to have a Region Free player to watch it, but I definitely recommend you checking this one out if you haven't seen it before. All right, next we're going to move on to a film from Criterion. This is Spy number 836, and this one is insane. I watched Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I recently had been watching some things on Roger Ebert, and I realized that he actually wrote this film, but this is a Russ Meyer production who, coincidentally, was somebody who worked in the softcore industry before this, and this is set in 1970, so, a very fun time to be around, I'm sure, but this one is all the debaucherous things you can think of, mushed in a blender with all these different genres, and it is quite insane. And in fact, man, the way this movie turns out, the way it goes, and the directions it hits, is just, it is something to watch. And it is certainly iconic, and I'm having a hard time coming up with words for it because it is just so insane but I loved it, every minute of it. It's just, it's trash, but at the same time, it's such worthy trash of enjoyment, because if you watch, you turn your brain off and watch something like this, you're going to have a really fun time with it. And looking at all the extra special features with it, of course, and looking at the interviews of the people involved with this film, it's just super fun. And it is definitely satirical in the Hollywood style of things, and like just really thinking about Hollywood in general at this time, and like the after parties and the things in between, and all the actors and people involved. And that's really one that's kind of concerning, but in very crazy ways, because it goes in a lot of directions. In fact, you can see one of our characters in here that goes a little bit mad. But man, oh man, this is a fun film. Highly recommend it. Can't really talk about it too much because it's certainly an experience. It's a movie that you definitely have to be in the right state of mind, but also maybe with some good friends, right? So check out Beyond the Valley of the Dolls if you haven't seen it. All right, moving right along is to some contemplative films that for some reason, this actually came in the mail, partly from a Kino Lorber sale. So I'm going to be doing a Kino Lorber sale haul very soon, because not everything is in the mail yet. But one of the films that I picked up is All the Mornings in the World, right here. I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly, but Tous les matins du monde. I hope I said that correctly, but like I said, All the Mornings in the World, an Alain Corneau film, and yeah, I probably butchered a lot of that, but I wanted to pick this one up, and I recently picked up The Piano, and I figured this would be a really interesting double feature, mostly based on musicians, or at least some kind of music piece with some kind of drama in the background with family. So let's talk about this film first. So this is starring Gerard Depardieu, who I just realized from watching this film and looking back at him, he's kind of a POS, right? Anyway, Jean-Pierre Mariel and Anne Brochet, probably. I'm going to say all these names incorrectly, but this is set in 17th century France. It is about a musician who his wife dies fairly early on, and he is like a maestro. He is somebody who is very masterful in his craft, and he kind of has this little small farm out of nowhere, and he has this practice space where he likes to go away from the farm and just practice there his pieces. And anyway, he has two daughters who, early on, like I said, his wife dies, so he starts to take care of them. But he's not really, he's a father who's very absent from their lives, but they're the ones who are more or less taking care of the farm, the land, and the space, but he also wants to train them as musicians. And it really is going about their relationship. But then there's also a man, Gerard Depardieu, who is the older version of this man, recollecting his life as when he was coming up as a musician, taking tutelage from our main character here, Jean-Pierre, and seeing this dynamic and how he was involved with that family. It is an interesting film, and I really liked it. This is from the early 90s. This is from 1991. So I also thought this would be a really good pairing with the piano, since it's an early 90s film as well. It's also kind of like Amadeus in a way, which, great film. I would hope that Criterion eventually puts that out on 4K. That would be fun. But yeah, this is just a really fun, I wouldn't say fun. It really is a film filled with betrayal and loyalty. A lot of these concepts of devotion mixed in with love and betrayal and revenge, and you're just seeing each other's. You're seeing this all come to a head with these interactions with the going back and forth in the past and the present, and it's certainly worth a watch. So pairing alongside this one, I had to watch The Piano. So I had watched this a long time ago, maybe a few years ago actually. I'm newer to a lot of these classic films. From 1993, Jane Campion directed film, incredible 4K that Criterion put out, and I'm very excited about that artwork and seeing this film again. But Holly Hunter, man oh man, Harvey Keitel, Sam Neill, and even a little Anna Paquin right here. Man, what a great, fantastic little film. Also such a big film, right? It's just a movie that I feel like is starting to become a more prevalent film that a lot of people are talking about. And I love that, not just because of The Power of the Dog, which is a more recent Jane Campion film, but I need to watch more Jane Campion films. That's what I'm really realizing about this. But to talk more about this is a 4K restoration, and the 4K looks beautiful. And I was able to also check out all the special features in this film and on this disc. There's quite a bit of great extra features here. But a new 4K digital transfer approved by Jane Campion and the DOP, Stuart Dryburgh, and with a 4.1 DTS master audio soundtrack. It has the disc in HDR and a Blu-ray with all the special features in it, just like with the other 4K that I showed you earlier. So it has a lot of conversations actually with Campion and Jan Chapman, who did the commentary on this. It also has new conversations between Campion and film critic Amy Taubin. It also has interviews with Dryburgh, Andrew McAlpine, the production designer, and a Maori advisor, who is Waihori Shortland, who was in the film itself and played a critical role, at least in the background. And he talks a lot about his how they're not necessarily, this is all set in New Zealand, which is where Jane Campion is from, and it's not necessarily about the Maori people, but it is about these settlers who are living in the land. Not necessarily their story, but they're definitely there and they're definitely present. And he was an advisor for the film itself, so Jane Campion was definitely thinking about what the time period's like, and also who is the people around this story that she wants to craft. And it's a beautiful film. This 4K looks gorgeous. This is an amazing film, and so worth the upgrade. I used to have the old Blu-ray across the bay on the other side of this camera. You can't see it, but I used to have that Blu-ray, and it looked good. But man, oh man, this 4K blows things out of the water. So happy that Criterion put it out, and it is an incredible film. And Holly Hunter, unforgettable, so stoic in this film, and man oh man, just like there's so much power in the nonverbal for her. But yes, check out The Piano, and yeah, I'd also agree and check out All the Mornings in the World too, if you haven't seen those two movies. All right, moving right along to another Criterion that I recently picked up. This is Spy Number 1117. It is a film written and directed by Theodore Witcher, and it is Love Jones. And I'm not going to lie, the name Jones definitely stood out, and that's why I picked it up. But also just wanting to watch something new, and it's something I didn't really know much about. But this is also from the 90s, 1997. This is a pattern I've been noticing. I've been watching a lot of 90s films, I guess. But man, oh man, this movie blew me away. Wow. This movie is incredible, obviously for the Black community, but also just powerful in the world of cinema in general. But man, this is a story of love, of course, and it is a love that is between a lot of friends and family and very real people. And I think that's the reason why this movie grasped me, because like you are interested in literally everyone in this film. People make bad decisions, you know, and obviously that's what happens in films, and that's what makes things interesting, is they're making these decisions left and right. to kind of do their own, create their own paths and, you know, interact with different people. But with this one, man, oh man, you just love everyone in this film in some way or another. Maybe not some of the people, but for the most part, you're interested in what they're going to do, right? And you're interested in their lives and in their interactions. And there's a lot of unforgettable moments in this film, and one involving a cab ride that I think is like one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a film. So if that doesn't speak enough for you, I would certainly say check out Love Jones. It's incredible, and it has a bunch of really cool special features, of course. 4K digital restoration from the director and writer Theodore Witcher. It has new audio commentary, new interviews with Witcher and film scholar Raquel J. Gates, new interview with music scholars Mark Anthony Neal and Shauna L. Redmond on the soundtrack of the film. And the soundtrack is also really incredible. I didn't mention that. A panel discussion featuring Witcher and members of the cast and crew. This is like a newer feature of like, you know, years later since they made this. And it's a really nice retrospect with everyone involved. And then it has a film essay from critic Danielle Amir Jackson. So, incredible film. Check out Love Jones if you haven't seen it. All right, not everything I watched was in the 90s. So I have actually some films from 1941, 57, and 1958. I actually picked up another Eureka title, The Three Monster Tales of Sci-Fi Terror. And I actually picked this one up from Diabolique DVD. So I want to say thank you for sending that as well. Of course, I mean, I bought it, but I'm glad that they exist, right? But this has 3 films in it right here. And this is a lot of fun. I love these types of films because these sci-fi and early horror films that are like 60 to 75 minutes long, perfect amount of time. I love when films are like that. And it's just it's a nice B movie. All these are all fun B movies. So these are fun B movies to watch. So let me tell you about each of the films. The first film is Man-Made Monster, which is starring Lon Chaney Jr., of course. We know him as the Wolfman. So a mad scientist transforms a carnival performer, Lon Chaney Jr., who was in an electric accident at the very beginning of the film. But apparently his whole act as a carnival personnel and performer is I said carnival personnel. Now I'm thinking of The Jerk. So my apologies there. But his whole trick is with electricity, and so apparently he is naturally prone to electricity, just being around him, and he accidentally becomes a radioactive man. And he starts doing crazy things. It's very much like Frankenstein's monster in a way like that, but really fun. That's from 1941. The second film in here is The Monolith Monsters, directed by John Sherwood from 1957, and this one's crazy. So a giant meteor hits the Earth, and the fragments of the meteor starts growing and in size due to water. So things are just growing, and like it's eventually going to encompass the entire Earth. And it takes a long time for people to figure this out. You know, it's not a very long film, but man, like 50 minutes into it, that's when they figure out like, oh shoot, it's water that's making this stuff and stuff grow. So they're trying to stop that. So they're trying to make sure that this doesn't turn people into contact with the stone itself too. So crazy little fun little nature, disaster film in a sci-fi in a sense, right? And then the last film is Monster on the Campus, directed by Jack Arnold from 1958. And this one's a lot of fun too. This is definitely like a scientist who finds an old, I guess, colanth. Right? Colanth is like an ancient fish that lived near the bottom of water, near usually the oceans or the seas. But this one has some really crazy blood, and people who get exposed to it start turning into these prehistoric monsters, right? And that's kind of the premise of that film. But it was a lot of fun. I actually enjoyed that one the most of the 3. But these were all, like I said, really fun to watch. Not necessarily too many special features on here, just commentaries, which I still have not checked out, but certainly worth getting because Kim Newman's here, Kevin Lyons, Stephen Jones. These are all people that I really enjoy. Jonathan Rigby, man. So a lot of really great people involved with this one, with a lot of still images and archival stills and memorabilia, and also comes with a booklet. So let me show you that real quick. There is, Man-Made Monster. It comes with the booklet of all the films right here, right? I love these different types of alternate artworks. Monster on Campus, of course. And then it has the 2 discs right here with the feature films in it. So really fantastic release. I'm glad that Eureka's putting out some of these B sci-fi and horror films, and I will buy them and have a really good time with them, even though they are not the greatest films in the world. They're just so much fun to watch, and I enjoy them quite a bit. So yeah, Three Monster Tales of Sci-Fi Terror, thumbs up to me. All right, the last disc I want to talk about is one that I've been meaning to talk about for a while because of that thing right there. Talking about Blood on Satan's Claw. Wow. Directed by Piers Haggard. This is from 1971, right? Yeah. And man, oh man, this is one of the 3 Unholy Trinity films. I loved this film. And also watching the extra features really gave so much more context to this film, and really kind of why initially when I watched this movie, there was some kind of, I was up and down on some parts, right? Because there's definitely felt incomplete in some manner, but there was also a lot of segments of this film that were just like unforgettable, and I just could not get out of my mind. The opening segment, the segment with Under the Floorboard, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's a particular scene involving torturing of a young woman that is really hard to watch. And, you know, there's some other scenes in here as well that are just unforgettable and a lot of fun. But like I was saying with the special features, it gives you so much more context. So this is actually screen-bound to put this out, and actually this is the version I have. This is a Region B release. I know that Severin put out a release a couple years ago that's limited edition, out of print now. I wanted to get that one, but certainly happy to have this one because it has all these extra features in it. Of course, the extra features include Underneath Satan's Skin, which is the other title for this film. It was actually called like 3 different things, which is crazy. I think for the majority of the people who were involved in this film, they wished that Satan's Skin was the name of the film. Interview with Piers Haggard and Robert Wynne Simons. Folk Music, interview with Mark Wilkinson. Folk Sounds, interview with Tony Daw. Folk Tale, interview with Simon Williams. Folk Art, interview with Millie Burns. Return to Bix, which is the location of this film. Simon Williams returns to the ruins, and it has the ruins featurette about the setting of Bloods on Satan's Claw, which is a nice little piece of land in England. Nice piece of land in the UK. Touching the Devil, the making of the Blood on Satan's Claw, interview with director Piers Haggard, and theatrical trailer with commentary from Piers Haggard, Robert Wynne Simmons, and Linda Hayden, who stars as our one of our main characters in this film. She's phenomenal in this, and has an extra feature commentary with Mark Gatiss, Jeremy Dyson, and Reese Shearsmith. But man, oh man, really fantastic film. Very happy to have seen this movie alongside Witchfinder General, and then of course The Wicker Man. But I'm so happy that I have this movie now, and I've watched it, but there's a lot of things unpacking here, and I would definitely love to watch this on in future watches, of course, when I dive further and further into more folk horror stuff. So with that, I do want to mention one more film before we leave. I also was able to go to the theater and watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. And oh my God, that movie is so much fun to watch in the theater. There are so many emotions that went through my mind as I was watching that film. But the newest film, that Everything Everywhere All at Once, is something I highly recommend. If you are a fan of film and a fan of going to the theaters, not everyone's a fan of going to the theaters, but I do recommend going to the theaters for this film. It is a movie that is, like I said, all over the map when it comes to the different types of emotions it's going to evoke. But it is nuts. It's a science fiction film filled with so many different things. An action film. It goes all over the place. It's got a lot of concepts going on, and it's also a family drama at the heart of it all. And man, I'm having a hard time coming up with words for it because I just loved it so much, and my different thoughts that go with it. There are some incredible fight sequences that happen. There's also a lot of visual cues in the film and creative choices that I really loved. And I love the performances as well. I loved everyone involved in this movie and could not keep my eyes off of what was going on. But I highly recommend everyone watching that film. But anyway, so that's all I got to say for what I've been watching for the month of April. In the future watches, I'm going to be talking about that ABC Movie Challenge. I hope you are able to maybe jump on board with that. I would love to hear your thoughts on that. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like, comment down below, share, hit the notification bell, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.